Welcome to the Napa Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, the spiritual director of this center. We are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. Come on in for one of our recent services.
You've got to follow the call. You got to follow the call.
This month we've been talking about better together. And as I visited friends and families, and as I come back to this community, I'm really aware that we really are better together. And coming out of this post-pandemic time, many of us were isolated for a while, and now it's rediscovering this idea of community and how important people are to us, that we are social creatures, and how it's important for us. And today we're talking about the one and only. And the nature of this is that if all pathways lead to one and all is one, then that one is within us, the one and only, because there's only God, there's only Spirit, there's only this oneness. And so within each of us is this one and only, and collectively we are one and only. When I say the one and only, I don't mean that we have a monopoly on the spiritual tools that are available to all. I just mean the whole world is one. And there is only one. That we're each one and we're all one. I just love this. I kept thinking about this concept as we... Michelle and I, as part of what we did there in Amsterdam, is we took a boat tour through these canals that you see here. And this is a rather famous one. It's called the Seven Bridges, which means, as you can see through this, the one bridge, there's another bridge, there's another bridge. At each area, there's a canal coming out that goes sideways. That's why the bridge is there. And so there's a whole neural pathway of canals in the Netherlands, particularly in Amsterdam, as I mentioned. And we took this open boat tour that was a small group of people, only about 10 people, and the boat tour guide was just talking to us one-on-one, just to our group, not through a microphone or anything. It was great to hear him talk about all these different facets of why the canal's there. They originally were for defense against other ships coming in, as well as transportation. And Amsterdam began to, in the 17th and 18th and even into the 19th century, were sort of a shipping mecca, because ships could come there from all over the world and they could be distributed through these canals in Amsterdam, which became for shoppers from all over the world, or their canal system would take it even further, would get to the rivers through Germany, through Austria, through Belgium and France, so it could distribute all these things. And so the Netherlands became quite prosperous because of this canal system. Now today, it's still a shipping magnet, but those ships are taking things now, the products are going by trucks and trains. But the same kind of international feel, because of their canal system, is still there now, because the canals bring in tourists from all over the world. While Michelle and I were there, we heard dozens and dozens of languages spoken. Some we weren't even sure what they were. Some we could hear enough words to understand, kind of the basic of it. But it's just a beautiful thing, and the feeling of the deeper connection. And while we were on this boat tour, I just had this deeper sense of oneness. Like the the canals is spread on a way in all ways. It was almost like a feeling like it was my body that has all these neural and circulatory systems that I have. and also the connection of the oneness, because the way Amsterdam spread out internationally in so many ways, that it was the connecting neural pathways. And I know our neural pathways, our consciousness, are also connecting with each and every person. So I just had this deep sense of oneness as we went through this canal system and this boat tour. And the rest of the trip, I was just feeling this deeper connection. When I first came to the Netherlands, because I speak a different language, I speak Dutch, I was a little bit hesitant. I'm not usually hesitant in social situations. I was a little resistant, a little concerned about me being able to communicate in the way I would like to. And so I would say very little, but I soon learned that people are quite, I felt bad. I felt almost some shame around not being able to speak their language and having to resort to English, but the truth is they speak English as their second language. They're some of the most English proficient people in the world because they teach it in the school. So they just want to know what language I teach. So it became, and once with this deeper sense of oneness, I'm going, why am I holding back? Why can't I be open in this deeper connection? And when we talk about the one and only and about these relationships, we're better together, I hesitate sometimes even when I'm in English, even when I'm here in my comfort. It's not that I have to keep saying things, keep talking. Sometimes I can be present with a person by saying nothing at all. So the rest of this trip and what I've come back with is this deeper sense of oneness, this deeper truth that's within me. The other thing I found fascinating about our tour is that there are locks here. I don't know if there's the buildings that lean. Can you believe that? I mean, they lean significantly, right? But there's, I don't have a picture of it, but there are the old system to keep out the seawater, because basically Netherlands is at sea level or below a lot of it. So that's why they have this canal system also as water management. And they had a system of locks or water gates that would keep the water out. Well, they don't have to do that anymore because they have electric pumping systems and ways to gauge it. But now they're using those old lock systems, those old water gates, to keep the water circulating, to keep it fresh, to keep it vital, because there was a period of time those canals had become stagnant and stinky and nobody really wanted to live near them. But I was thinking about my own life, how, in my body system and in my consciousness, how to keep the lock system, to keep the gates open, to keep my heart open, to keep things refreshed and vitalized and new and not be in the stagnant and stinky thinking that I might have, rigid thinking about judgments I have about certain people or certain things, and how important that is just to keep fresh in what we do. What I know is the relationships we have, whether they be friends or family or community, is divine in nature, because we have this divine within us. The divine is all around us. So that which is evolving in us evolves in relationships with others. We don't have to do anything to create divine relationships. They're divine by us simply being divine, which we are. And our task is to keep those gates moving forward, to keep things fresh, to let go of any awareness we have around grudges or bitterness or righteous indignation, covert narcissism, people-pleasing, passive-aggressive, jealousy, anything that would stand in our way of openness, of allowing. Rumi, the great Persian poet, said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within ourselves that we have built against it." Because love is our natural beingness. Connection, social relationship is natural for us. So we just let it open and be connected and keep it fresh. And sometimes we need to lean against our friends we need to open up and ask for what we need. The other thing I thought was interesting about my trip was noticing that all people seek freedom, seek liberation. And I think it's spirit within us that seeks to express, guide us, encourage us to be free, free of any limitations in our mind, our body, anything that holds us back in that way. But it's always interesting that this idea of liberty, as I heard people in the Netherlands talk about it, it's not just our country that's struggling with what liberty means right now. There have the government in the Netherlands is wanting to put some of their farmland and develop it because they have too much production of agriculture, and it's producing pollution through tractors, through methane, through the cattle production. So they want to have some farmers not farm, but the farmers want to keep farming, and so they're going through trying to force farmers to sell their land, and there's a lot of protest about that. And so what they're doing is the farmers are taking their tractors and blocking highways and different things as part of a protest. So it's very interesting. So, what they're saying is they should have the right to their own vocation. And even though the government is compensating them for them, they want to continue to they want the right to be a farmer still. So it's an interesting thing. And yet the government is saying there's a freedom that we can all experience with a better environment. So in our own country talks about liberty and what, in terms of our access to guns, our women's access to their own bodies, their own reproductive rights. And so we're talking about that and what's good for all people. I tend to go for the liberty of all people, and knowing that Spirit leads us to this freedom that opens up in us in greater ways, that we can be guided towards what is the highest and best for us, and creating a world that works for everyone, not just a few people. I think this applies to gun rights probably more than anything, because there's so many kids right now, or even us as adults in our regular lives, that don't feel safe because of the automatic weapons that we've talked about. I'm not for getting rid of all our weapons, but I like to consider the banning of certain kinds of assault weapons so that we can all feel free to be who we are without any restriction on that. And that's an example of where some people think their liberty might be affected, but I think that's a very individual liberty. And what the problem that the Dutch government has right now is they're trying to force it. And I think that we always need to negotiate, we always need to communicate how we can agree that we all want something that works for everyone and find the way that works. When I was in the airport coming back from Europe, my flight, by the time it landed and by the time I went through customs, was really a narrow window, and I really wanted to catch my plane. I was in Seattle, and I needed to catch my plane to get back to San Francisco. And by the time I went through customs, which was this long ordeal, Seattle has this new system, and it was really a lot of walking, and I had to recheck my bag before I got on the plane. And when I got there, I got to the check-in counter, I was a little bit frazzled. And I was talking to the agent there, and she said, "I'm not sure if your bag's going to make it." I go, well, okay, try your best. And she goes, and we won't bring it to you. And then I just, what do you mean you won't bring it to me? I just started spiraling out because I was already anxious about getting on my plane, and I just go, whoa, what are you doing? This person has nothing to do whether my bag gets there on time or not. And I was in a state of panic and worry, and so what if my bag didn't get there? So what if I had to go pick it up? What really mattered right here is this person was really helping me. They were in service to me and my situation, and I needed to bring it down and be present and notice. My own wishes is I had wished I'd noticed it about 10 seconds before that. But I did notice it. So I did apologize and came back to center and got my bag checked and kind of walked quickly with my carry-on bags and got to the gate where my plane was and had been delayed. And part of me is going, oh, I created that, didn't I? It was delayed quite a bit, and I actually looked out the window and saw my bag going up the conveyor belt into the plane, so all is good, right? But we just get so carried away with things sometimes that, that we has to be this, it has to be that. And we just open up to the moment and connecting with the people that we're with, which is the most important thing. Letting the love flow. Letting this be. What I know is that Spirit guides us. In all ways, Spirit guides us. And we act with the best of our abilities at the level we're at. Part of me was thinking about this a lot because here we visited with 2 grandchildren on the East Coast, 4 in the Netherlands, and they were ranging from the age of 3 to 13. So obviously, developmentally, they were all over the place. And especially the 3-year-old wants to do everything the older kids do, but can't do it. And playgrounds and situations are set up that there's different levels. So there's things that he can do, but they're at his level. So this is, I think. So it's an area of a playground that's just for him, that he's having fun with, and he can do that. And I think it's not that. One time I was at a conservative church, and when I was in ministerial school, they wanted us to go to different kinds of churches. It's been a while since I've been in a fundamental church, probably 30 years when I went to this one. And the minister is a good speaker, Bible-based. But I really had a problem with him saying that God is always setting a bar for us that we can't meet. He compared it to the way his son, when he was with his son, he would get his son to try and jump to a certain area, and he'd put a chalk line or a rope there. And once his son was able to jump that, he'd move the line back a little bit. So his son was always seeking to improve himself. And I understand that. That's you want that in your development, just like setting things. But he said God does this. His opinion is God does this to us. And we never measure up to God. I almost stood up right in the middle of the church, said, hold on. I didn't do that, but I wanted to, because I don't think that's the way God works at all. I don't think we are a puppet for the strings that God pulls. And I think we're always perfect, whole, and complete in the eyes of Spirit. Always. We have this impulse within us as humans, as consciousness, as mindful, to try new things. And God guides us, empowers us, loves us right where we are, whether we succeed or not. But we are the body of Spirit. We are the action of Spirit, the expression of Spirit. God needs us to act in the world, to be this conscious love out in the world. I remember there was a time in my life when I was struggling with all sorts of things in my life. It was always a period of time only time in my life that I had a long period of depression. I was just really struggling. And but the good thing is that I went more into prayer during that time. And I had a clear message from Spirit, a clear guidance about something to do. And it was also clear to me that I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready to do what I was being guided to do. And in this deep relationship I had with Spirit said, okay. I go, what? Don't I have to do? Isn't lightning supposed to strike me when I say no? No. If you're not ready for this, this is what I want you to do. And I did that. And I was able to do that. I was able to do it fully, completely, and wholly, and knowing that Spirit loved me no matter what. That I am its expression. And because I was willing to do that and surrender and be open, it allowed me to continue to be in this relationship with Spirit that allowed me to continue to open up in other ways to Spirit later. That I went way beyond what was being asked of me at that time. It didn't, unlike stories you hear that when we're disobedient, things happen like floods and stuff like that. It was not that case at all. It was me opening up to Spirit in the way that I was able to do it, that I was able to be. Robert Frost says, we dance around in a ring and suppose, but the secret sits in the middle and knows. We're right in the middle of all of life. There's a great Hindu story about Brahma, which is their word for the ultimate God, sitting with a council of other gods because at one time humans were divine and they had been abusing what it meant to be divine. And so this council of gods and Brahma wanted to hide their divinity from them. And the council of God said, let's put it on the highest mountain. And Brahma goes, no, people will climb to the mountain to find it. Well, let's put it in the depth of the ocean. And Brahma said, no, they'll swim to the bottoms, to the depths and find it there. And they kept trying to find places. And Brahma finally said, I know where we'll put it. We'll put it deep within themselves. They may look there, but they'll never discover it until they're willing to surrender, until they're willing to let go and be. And so that's where Spirit did. And humans continued to climb and swim and dive. And they don't find it unless we're willing to go within and surrender completely and find this truth. And in this truth, we know that what we seek to do is to evolve our love, to let our love evolve. Let a newness come before us that is deeper and more profound in our relationships. The older granddaughter, her name is Sadie. This was a professional article done about her and her school that does a big farm. And it's amazing that she's the one on the left and they're farming. But the school has this farm and she does work with them during the summer when there's no school because she sees such a deeper connection with nature. That all the students during the year are doing math and science experiments with a garden, and they're with the farm. It's not a garden, right? It's a full farm that produces food for those who work it, the students, for soup kitchens, for other kinds of donations. They even sell some of it. But all of them are finding this deep connection to nature with life itself, the importance of the soil and compost and different things like that. And this is at their level. This is at the level she is, and we're all being asked to deepen at the level we are, what Spirit is guiding us to do. There's Porch Fest is today, and there's a band there. I haven't heard them yet, but I heard a little bit of them online because I was fascinated by their name, Not Dead Yet. You can see pictures of them. They're getting up there in age, but they're not dead yet, right? Some of us wonder, just waiting to be, someday I'm going to die. Well, let me tell you, you're not dead yet, right? So you've got plenty of momentum and life and vitality, and let Spirit use that. Let Spirit be this life force that's within you. One thing I know about love, I love this acronym, is let others voluntarily evolve. Let's not get caught up in where we think other people are or where we think we should be. Let ourselves evolve. Let this acronym of letting love be and letting this consciousness be the truth of who we are. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book called The Tipping Point, talked about little things can make significant change because of everything else being done before that. We don't have to do big things. We can just be kind and considerate and mindful. Keep those gates moving in our bodies and doing what we can. And this consciousness we do together of evolution, of love, of peace, does make a difference. Because what I know is that thoughts matter, actions matter, words matter, you matter, we matter. That which we do in our everyday relationships, our everyday way, do make a difference. And guess what? You're not dead yet. And in fact, you are alive and powerful beyond your greatest imagination. And Spirit wants to guide you to open up to things that you're able to do. It's at your level, at your willingness, at your abilities. So let's continue to open up into this oneness, into this life, because we are better together. Let us go to prayer. What I know in this moment is there is only one. As we can imagine the entire world, the entire universe connected with neural pathways, energy pathways that connects our energy within our body to the rest of all life on this planet and beyond. And as we just allow ourselves to know this oneness, we know that this is a benevolent universe. And we just allow Spirit to use us to bring greater love, greater joy, greater peace to this planet, now and always.
All for myself, I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. So if you're feeling discouraged, just trying to make it through another day, let it all go, let it all go. And this is what you have to say: I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God.
Yes, I'm
Only for God.
Thank you for watching today. If you would like more information about us, scan the QR code or go to nvcsl.org, or join us on Sundays at 10:30. Live music, great messages, and a beautiful community. All are welcome.